Hi guys, I'm Tinette and welcome to my channel. Today we are painting January for the flower of the month calendar 2024. So this is what mine looks like. In today's video we'll be painting flower of the month calendar month January. The flower of this month is the carnation flower. What you will need is a paint palette. I just use my spoon rest for this video. I have my clean glass of water. I've got my pocket size Winsor & Newton half pan paint set, and I have a few paint brushes. Everything I used is listed in the bio below. These artworks are printed on 300 grams watercolor hot press paper. If you want the digital format of these artworks, you are more than welcome to download it on my Etsy shop, which is also listed below. I also use a pipette to put a few drops of water on my pigment blocks. This helps to activate the pigment so that I can use it for my watercolor paint set. I also use for this video my full set of Winsor & Newton paint colors. I only use 3 colors just because I wanted to use those specific 3 colors on my flower. It gives it a nice pink purpley color. What you will do is start mixing your paint. I like going in with my green for this specific picture first. So I will mix 3 kinds of greens with my sap green. The first green will be the normal green, the raw green as it is on the pigment. The second one I'll add in some yellow to give it a yellowy green color. The third green I will use once again my sap green, and I will add a little bit of burnt umber and a tiny bit of black. The burnt umber and black makes the green more of an olivey green. You can use this tone and shade for your shadows, whereas you will use the yellow and the normal green, the sap green, for the brighter areas of the leaf and the stem of the flower. When you start painting, you will use all 3 colors. What I suggest is to paint every second petal or every second leaf. What this will help is when one is wet and you paint another area right next to it while it's also wet, what will happen is the 2 areas that is wet, it will blend into each other and it will become one big mush, and we do not want that. So as you can see, I'm jumping around on my painting to prevent my wet paint to blend into each other. Using the 3 greens that I've pre-mixed to paint my leaves and my stems. I'll start with the dark green for where the shadows would be. So this would be the areas either right beneath the flower, or if you have a look at your picture, you can imagine the sun or whichever light source you've got from the one side of your drawing. So for instance, if the light source is on your right, on the left side it'll be darker. So when you do the stems or the leaves, you will make the right side a little bit darker than the left side, as if it casts a shadow. The same with, as I've mentioned, the flower itself is casting a shadow on the stem. So right beneath the flower, it'll be a bit darker. So I go in with my dark green, then my medium green and my light green or water to blend it out as a light color, as where the sun would catch the area the most. So this would be your highlighted area. It's very important to have all 3 colors. You can even add more. The main idea is for you to have a light color, a medium color and a dark color. So for instance, like I'm painting the green now, we've got the yellow mixed with the sap green, which would be my light color. Or sometimes I use water to mix out even lighter color. So I'll add water to my paintbrush first and then add in some green on it to get an even lighter color. And then my medium color would be my sap green. My dark color would be the sap green mixed with the burnt umber and a little bit of black. So even when you paint the flowers or the petals of the flowers, you do this exact same thing. What I also would suggest, as you can see, is to finish one area at a time. So for instance, this stem of this flower, I started going in with the green, I used my yellow green and I used my brown black green. So I'm painting all the colors at once in one area. So we're finishing one area or one petal before we move on. So when you finish it, you need to be you need to feel that it's finished, that it's done. I don't want you to go back to that color or to that area again. Then you will start fiddling and the colors won't blend into each other because they're not wet anymore. It is important to paint all the colors at the same time or right after each other while they still wait for them to blend into each other. If you're not sure how to do this, you can have a look at my video where I did the 2024, the letters, on my previous video for the calendar of the month. After you've painted all your greens, and I want you to really use your dark green as well. This is the most important color of all your colors. Dark green, the brown black green, gives your artwork some depth. If you're only going to use your raw green, it's going to look very flat, and we want a three-dimensional artwork. Wherever you see a shadow, where I've used my shadows, you can use your shadows, or you can paint your shadows. Wherever I've painted light, you can paint light. And this applies to any kind of painting. When you look at the picture, try and look for the light and the dark areas. The dark areas, you will always use your burnt umber or your black mixed with each other or mixed into the color that you want to make darker. Then I started mixing my pink and my purple for my flower. So I mixed about 2 colors, and I also used a few from the pigment, the raw pigment as it is. Once again, you will see that I'm painting every second petal so that they don't touch each other. What I start doing, I first paint with my lightest pink. If you want, you can also use your dirty water. You will paint the entire petal with your dirty water. Then at the bottom, where the area would be dark, you will go in with your medium color. So this would be the raw color as it is from the block. Or if you want to mix 2 colors together, that's also 100%. Then at the bottom of the petal, where the petal touches the leaf or the stem of the flower, in that small area, you will put a little bit of the dark color. The dark color would once again be your pink or your purple mixed with a little bit of black. This makes the shadow look more realistic. I'm going to show you again how I painted the petals. I first went in with my dirty pink water. So this helps to get the light pink. Then I go in with my medium pink. The medium pink will be the color that I use most. Then where the shadows are, so between the different petals, there will be shadows. So for instance, if one petal is in front of another, it'll cast a shadow on that petal. We do this so that all of the petals don't look exactly the same and that it becomes just one big pink area. So it is important to have light, medium and dark areas. They don't all have dark areas at the same area. So what is important is that you need to have a light and a dark and a medium area on each petal, but not necessarily on the same areas. So when you have a look at your picture, have a look at which petals are to the front and which petals are to the back. The ones to the back will most likely be the ones that has darker shadows or more shadows, whereas the ones to the front might not necessarily have a dark area. It might only have the light pink and the medium pink just because it's catching so much light. So if you have a look at this one that I'm painting now, I'm painting with my dirty light pink water. I'm going in then with my medium pink while the light pink is still wet. So this is very important. The light pink has to be wet for the medium pink to blend into it seamlessly. So a petal has very soft lines. So you want those soft lines by creating the wet on wet technique. This is why you have to paint your light color first. So when we paint the light color, we paint it wet enough so that when we go in with the medium color, it's still wet for you to paint on. So when I say it needs to be wet, it doesn't mean there's a dam of water. It basically means it still needs to reflect in the light where you're painting for you to be able to see that it is still wet. Once you've painted the medium color, you're going to go in with the dark color. Now once again, the petal still needs to be wet for you when you go in with the dark color. We don't want hard lines where you put the dark color in. As much as you want to take your time to put in detail, it is almost more important to paint quick enough so that the paint doesn't dry before you do your next color. We want these colors to blend into each other. If your color does dry, what you can do is you can take your clean paintbrush with a little bit of water and re-wet the area. So you're just quickly gonna go over for example, the light pink, and then go in with your medium pink. Try not to use too much water and not have a dry paintbrush. The dry paintbrush will lift off the existing paint, and if you have too much water, it's going to flood the area, and then you won't be able to add in more paint. It's just going to drift around in the wet area. So there's a very fine balance between too dry and too wet. One of the things that also helps is when you paint every second petal, it gives you the opportunity to see which areas you can put in more highlights or go darker, so that your flower looks like a 3D flower and not like a flat flower. So by adding dark colors, the dark color, this is the perfect opportunity for you to make your artwork look more three-dimensional and more realistic than when you would use just a normal pink color. In some areas, I made an even brighter pink, so I still used my crimson color. I just made it even darker, meaning I used more pigment for some areas to look even more unique than the normal light pink and medium pink. The more colors you use, the more dynamic your artwork will look like. So don't be scared to mix your colors as you go. If you've got a few petals one color, you can always add in more pink or a little bit of purple to your color to make it more unique. Then you can start painting all the other leaves. What I would suggest is to bounce between the flowers so that you can paint every second petal. Once the first set is dry, you can go back in and you can paint every other petal that's in between the ones that is already painted. Try to paint every petal or every second petal unique. Don't copy and paste every petal. We want to see a difference between the different petals. So for instance, your one petal might be lighter, the next one might be darker, or the shading between the two starts earlier or later. So for instance, the one area might have more light and less dark, and the next petal might have more dark and less light. What you can also do, instead of just going up and down with the light and dark, is you can work from left to right to have a shadow almost casting from the one petal to the another, so it only has a darker shade on the one side of the petal. Once you have painted all your petals, make sure you didn't miss any. It's easy to miss a little petal between all the lines. If you've got paint in areas that you don't necessarily want paint, so either you put your hand in the drawing or your paintbrush dropped a drop of paint on your artwork where you don't want paint, what you can do, you clean your paintbrush. You have clean water with a clean paintbrush with a lot of water on the paintbrush. Then you're going to work on that area where you don't want the paint. So it isn't necessarily going to get rid of the paint, but it might just make it lighter. Once you've done painting all the flowers, you can start by adding some detail. You can add detail with your size 1 paintbrush. Once you're happy with your flowers, if you're not sure where to end your flowers stems, I would suggest to not make a straight line. You can make an almost jagged kind of line to feel like they are naturally cut off into the page. So let's say, for instance, the flower on the right, the stem is lower down from the flower to the left. As you can see, it's also not a straight line, it's a jagged kind of line that makes it look more natural. You are more than welcome to paint your flower in different colors. It does not have to be in pink. As you know, there's a few different colors flowers. You can add a few paint splashes to your painting. What you can do is you take your size 3 paintbrush and you fill it with the color that you either have painted with or feel it complements the existing colors on your page. You will lightly dab your paintbrush on your finger to let it splatter on your painting. When you do this, make sure any other painting that you're busy with is further away because the splatters might go everywhere. In the next video, we'll be painting irises. This is the flower of the month for February. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and follow my channel. If you have any questions, please leave your questions in the comments and I'll get back to you. All the materials that we used is listed below and I hope you enjoy it.